Let's talk about the state of Amazon relay here in 2025. I don't know what it was like in your area, but for my area here in Southern California, it was probably one of the worst quarters. Quarter one was probably one of the worst quarters I've seen so far in the time I've been working for them. So the way I see it is there's 5 things that are kind of cumulatively coming together and creating the rates that we're seeing today, the kind of the low rates that we saw all throughout quarter one 2025. Because I respect your time, I'm going to put chapters in this. If you want to skip ahead and skip to a different part, click on the video description, go down below, and in the video description you can skip ahead to whatever you want to see. But as far as those 5 things, number 1, question: is the easy money for Amazon really over? Number 2, I want to talk about them investing in their, Amazon investing in their self-sustaining practices. 3 is talking about, how much more organized Amazon is getting. The 4th thing is going to be the changes that they've made to us owner-operators in regards to like canceled legs on trips. And then the last thing, the 5th thing, is just going to be changes to spot capacity. So is the easy money over with Amazon? I don't want to get accused of stealing somebody else's content here. A friend of mine sent me a video. I watched the whole thing. It was actually really well put together, really well spoken. I really did enjoy it. I'm going to put a link to that video in this video, but it was the same question that they were asking, and they kind of were thinking outside of the box. I don't want to, I'd highly recommend checking the video out. I don't want to, cover exactly what they covered, but basically they look at like the diminishing rates, the increased standards, all that type of stuff like that. As far as, for the first time since Amazon has been around, like since the 90s, what we're seeing now, I mean, they've basically just had exponential growth throughout all this time. And here within like the last year or two, that growth has kind of plateaued. It's not to say they're a bad company. I mean, I'm sure Amazon's growth, they've had over 20 years of growth. I mean, show me another company that's been able to do that. I think you'd be hard pressed to do it, but it's just, go check out that video. It's definitely worth watching. And it just kind of looks at this from the perspective of like, Amazon's financials, if those are no longer outstanding, or if those are, if those are starting to level off, obviously the rate that they pay to us owner-operators is not going to be as good either. Those self-sustaining practices that they've been investing in, I mean, I remember, I think it was like my 3rd time doing an Amazon load, and I had other owner-operators saying like, oh, they're gonna fire us all one day. They're trying to work us out of this, and it was kind of like, I'm new at this. I'm just kind of absorbing information. One thing to keep in mind is that every Amazon employee that works out in their yard is doing like an Amazon, they're an employee hostler position. Amazon has paid for all of those people to go and get their CDL. Amazon foot the bill, is it foot or footed? Amazon foot the bill on all those people getting their CDLs. And I have noticed, especially in my area, you see the AFP tractors, and they always have like a name on it. So like, let's say I decided and I was wanting to have Stat Trucking become an Amazon AFP. It would, it'd be an Amazon truck, but in real little writing on the door, it would say Stat Trucking. Not interested in doing that. But one thing I have noticed in my area is there have been more and more of those, what would appear to be an AFP tractor parked in the parking lot, but rather than saying another company name, it actually has Amazon on there, and it has Amazon's like MC and DOT number. So what they're having, what I mean by self-sustaining practices is it's like, historically my bread and butter has been doing these little local shots around town that, like, let's say start in Otay, you take a loaded trailer up to a little sister smaller facility, and then you bring an empty back. These little, they vary in range from 20 to 80 miles. They're just these little back and forths. Those were plentiful back in the day. Those have all disappeared. Where have they gone? What they're doing is, and throughout doing the hostler shifts down at San 3, San 5, I've made friends with a bunch of people who work down there. And I started seeing these people who, in my mind, I saw them as being like the hostler for San 3, San 5. I started seeing them showing up at other facilities. Like I'd be, checking into Poway, and there's the guy I know from San 5 driving one of those Amazon trucks. And what they were explaining to me is that they refer to them as Tommy runs. I think because it's like they're known as like the Tom team. I don't know where Tommy comes from, but they're just like, oh, I'm on a Tommy run. I'm on a Tommy run. So basically, they've invested in their staff to have, you know, them have CDLs so that they can basically send their own freight. They don't need owner operators to do it. And it's important to point out here, I've always known, I've been under no disbelief where I fall in like the pecking order, or where an owner operator falls in like the pecking order of all this. Amazon's ideal way to send freight is with their own employees. I mean, they've got an employee, they're paying them an hourly wage, they have the equipment. It's probably the cheapest way for Amazon to send freight. Number two is going to be probably like contract freight with J.B. Hunt. That might flip-flop with what number three is, which is like Amazon Freight Partners. And then, you know, finally, after those three cups have been filled, that's where owner operators have the chance to go in and, you know, possibly get blocks, do what I do, go with the load board. But I've always been aware that like basically the load board is the crumbs that are left over. Now, it just so happens in the past there's been enough of those crumbs to put together to make sometimes it's a decent sized bite, sometimes it's an entire slice. There's been enough crumbs, but you know, with them investing in their employees having their own CDLs, that's how a lot of their local freight is now getting moved. Amazon's finally getting organized. You know, and what I mean by that is I never wanted to say this in the past, and I want to be clear, I'm not being disparaging about Amazon, but for the first couple years, they would post loads on the load board that would be like, hey, take a trailer from Sand 5 to Sand 3. It's 0.6 miles. It's, you know, and historically, I mean, I've gotten paid anywhere between, I think the lowest I've ever taken that for was like 160. The highest I've ever taken that for, I think I got 450 for that once. But, you know, what was interesting about it is they would post these loads and they would put like 5 of them on the load board at the same time. Now, the part that I didn't want to talk about, but, you know, I feel free about talking about it today because obviously they've kind of like caught on to it, and I think they've kind of fixed, I'm not going to say the error of their ways, but what they've changed is, so before they were putting 5 of those on there, all at, let's say, $200 a piece, they're paying out $1,000 to move 5 trailers, basically a half mile. And they would put 5 of them on there. What I mean by them getting more organized is they're now, rather than sending those as 5 separate loads, they're now putting them on there as like one big load that's like kind of packaged together, and it's like, hey, there's 10 stops, Sand 5, Sand 3, Sand 5, Sand 3, on and on for, you know, a total of 10 times. And rather than paying $1,000 for that, $200 a piece, now they're paying, let's say, $350. Still a good deal. I mean, if I'm in Ojai to go move 5 trailers half a mile for $350, yeah, I'm still going to do that. But, you know, it was just, I always, I booked them like that for years. I mean, the first couple years, it was like, cool, I got 3 or 4 of these things. And I always in the back of my mind, I mean, I was kind of thinking of like, if Amazon were my business, how would I do this? And that's exactly what I would do. Now, I never wanted to put that in a video just because it was like, I didn't, you know, if Amazon watches my content, I didn't want them being like, hey, that's a good idea, we should do it that way. The fact of the matter is, that's how they do it today. There's you know, these little across the street moves for $200, those are completely dried up. The other thing is, you know, first couple years, I mean, I've shared doing the hostler experience with you. I've showed, like, you know, how profitable it is, everything like that. But I always, in the back of my mind, again, something I never wanted to bring up, but I always wondered, why don't they, if I treat it like I own Amazon, and how would I do a hostler shift? I would put it on the load board. Now, again, never would have talked about this in the past because I would have hated to have given them that idea 2 years, 3 years ago. But, you know, like, put it on the load board and say, you know, like, it started out at whatever, and see, you know, increase it incrementally and see what it goes for. What they ended up doing for like the first 2-3 years is they would just send it out as like spot capacity. They were offering $100 an hour, $1,000 for a 10-hour day. And, you know, and those were just plentiful. I think I paid myself back in what I spent in equipment just doing $1,000 hostler shifts. I mean, they were great. They were fantastic. What they've now done with those, and again, the reason I feel comfortable talking about it today is those hostler shifts now show up as under auctions. They no longer go out as spot capacity. The days of the $100 an hour hostler shift are over. And the upsetting thing about the auctions is is I'm never going to book one because I don't believe in racing to the bottom, but you just see people with the load board, you'll see the price go up and go up and go up. The thing with auctions is you just see the price go down, go down, and go down. It's like, you'll have somebody on there who's like, okay, I'll do it for 1,000, and 1,000's the current rate. And then it's like, and then, as it gets closer to the end time, it goes down to 900 and 800 and 700. And it keeps going down and down and down. And it's just so upsetting to kind of watch in real time people just race to that bottom. People are so happy to do that, but hey, it's good for Amazon, right? I mean, they're saving a ton of money. So I mean, I was watching one the other day that, keep in mind, I mean, this used to be like $100 an hour position. Now that they've put it into auctions, I think this went down to like around $50 an hour. It was just above that. So people are doing it for half. And I credit Amazon for putting it into auctions because, hey, it is, like I said, it's saving them money, but it's just, they are getting way more organized as far as, the days of the easy money, hey, take a trailer across the street for $200, hey, do a hostler shift for $1,000. I think those days are done. All right, let's talk about the thing that probably pisses me off the most, which is the changes to the canceled legs. Now, I don't mean to come across as like on some sort of experiential high ground here, but I mean, in order to properly explain this, I'm gonna have to talk like I'm like some old timer, even though I just started doing this 3 years ago. These are the changes that I've seen over the last 3 years. So when I started for Amazon and you booked a load and you saw the load, let's say for all these examples, let's pretend it's a 5-stop trip. Hey, it doesn't matter the distance, 5-stop trip paying $500. When you book that load and they're like, okay, we didn't need you at stop 2 and stop 4, didn't matter, you still got paid the $500. Then to fast forward to like how they changed it is now they say, well, okay, yeah, we didn't need you at stop 2 and stop 4. And we know we said the payout was $500, but because we didn't need you at those stops, we're now only going to pay you $300. And there's no payment dispute. There's no arguing it. It's just they kind of just changing the rules as you go along. I hated that. The newest thing, and this happened to me firsthand. This was like a couple nights ago, and this is like obscene to me. Okay, not only are they canceling legs and not paying for it, but they're adding legs to a load that's booked off of the load board. I signed up for I believe it was supposed to be like a Sand 5 to a 𝙑𝙬𝘉, back to Sand 5. I believe the total trip was supposed to be like 34 miles. I get to Sand 5, I get a notification in the app saying the trip's been canceled, and it was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, get $175. But then immediately I get a thing saying a load was added. And what kind of freaked me out about it, or what really got my attention is it says a load was added, and immediately I get an email saying late truck. It's like, what are we doing? What's happening? And what they had done is they had canceled the Sand 5 to 𝙑𝙬𝘉 back to Sand 5, I believe. But they had then added, okay, well, since you're at Sand 5, go ahead and take a trailer over to Sand 3. And they reduced the payout from like $350 down to $180. But the thing that really upset me about it was that they added that leg. I'm somebody who, if you're new here, welcome. If you know me, you know this. I kind of surgically, strategically, whatever you want to say, I put my nights together where there's not time in my night. There's not a gap for them to add a leg. And I understand, like keep in mind, I'm talking about load board loads here. I understand on a block, if you finish like an 11-hour block early, I understand that they can add a trip to that. That's fine. You signed up for 11 hours. You owe them 11 hours. If they want to add a leg to that, I totally agree. I think they should be able to do that. This is a load board load. This was not a block. I want to be perfectly clear here. This was a load board load. And then that kind of got me thinking, it's like, okay, well, cool. They're sending me across the street to Sand 3. It's not going to take up that much time. It's not going to mess up my next load. But I guess my question is it's like, what's stopping them from saying, hey, we know you signed up for this little 34-mile run. Go ahead and cancel that. We're going to add this leg. Head over to Tucson for us. Now, do I think they would do that? No. But the fact that they're adding legs to canceled trips just absolutely drives me crazy. But so I mean, I hope that explains it. That's there's been, 3 years ago, you book something for $500, even if they, not if they canceled all of it. If they canceled all of it, you got a tow new. But even if you did one leg and the other 4 legs got canceled, you walked out of that with $500. So it's just, there's been major changes to canceled legs as far as during my tenure with Amazon. And last and certainly not least, changes to spot capacity. I put a video out once talking about, I think I called it something along the lines of like earn 30% more with spot capacity. It was basically replying to those emails that they would send out. And I wanted to be modest in that number. I didn't want to overstate it. And so I said 30%. Fact of the matter is, I mean, I've had weeks with Amazon where 100% of the money I have made has come from spot capacity. I didn't want to overstate the 30 and oversell it or anything like that. Didn't want to misrepresent it. But here's the thing. Spot capacity historically has always come from the same email address. It was super easy to go into your phone or your device or whatever and say, hey, this email, when I get emails from these people, I make this a VIP, make this show up, make this, notify me when this is an important email, because, and you would want to do that because time was of the essence in replying to these things. Typically, I mean, I can't prove this, but I think they kind of operate on, whoever responds first, maybe even regardless of rate, they kind of go with that person. So, I mean, obviously time was of the essence. Here's the change that they've made. I still do get spot capacity from that email address sometimes, but the fact of the matter is I get spot. Love the spam risk. I wasn't expecting a phone call. Totally lost my train of thought. So I still do get emails from that spot capacity email address. But the thing is the other half the time I just get them from random people. I mean, there's just random, and they're legitimate Amazon spot capacity. But the idea of, hey, I want to keep a lookout for. I want to keep a lookout for this specific email address is totally shot and out the window, because you're getting email addresses from, they are Amazon employees, but it's just like, I was looking at my phone. I've probably received spot capacity from like 20 different Amazon employees in the last week, and there's no way that I can, or that I would even attempt to make all these people be like a VIP in my phone. It's impossible. It's always changing. And so the idea of, making it easy for the owner-operator to respond back to them, sending it all from the same email, that's gone. So how has this affected me and my business, working with Amazon, that type of stuff? I would guess that all these changes, everything that I've mentioned in this video, probably has me earning somewhere between $300 and $500 less a day. All the little changes that they've made over the years, or since the time I've working with them. I mean, they just, the one thing I didn't bring up, one thing that they've kind of invented along the way too, is this whole ineligible driver. It used to be, when I started with Amazon, you could book overlapping loads, assign yourself as the driver, and it was on you to get it done. And I loved it because it was like they were treating us like we were adults. And guess what? And I don't say this to brag, but when you used to be able to book loads like that, and I did overlap loads, my grade was still at 100%. If I said I was going to do it, I always did it. I always did it on time. And now, the other night was a perfect example. I was taking a little run from one of the sands over to 𝙑𝙬𝘉 and then back to one of the sands. And I was leaving 𝙑𝙬𝘉 at like 5:05 in the morning, and they post this load starting at 5:45, an additional like $300, I think, to do the same run again, to run over to like 𝙑𝙬𝘉 again. The problem is it started at 5:45, and the load I was on, even though I was going to be back and I could have started that load by 5:45, the load I was on was booked out until I think 6:30, 6:45. So had I booked it in that moment, here's where they would have gotten me. They would have said like, oh, you didn't assign a driver in time. That's going to affect your disruption-free portion of your grade. Or they would have said, we're just going to cancel it because you're on this other load. But I mean, historically, you in a situation like that, hey, this load starts in 40 minutes, I'm going to be back in time, let's go ahead and book it. You just can't do that anymore. So like little changes like that, the inability to book work kind of like how I used to, net result is probably $300-500 less a day that I'm making. Is Amazon still worth it? I mean, if you're willing to, it takes a ton of strategy. It takes a ton of, you know, paying attention to what, when, where, and how, and everything like that. I mean, I do still work for them. I don't work for them as much. I didn't work for them really at all in Q1 2025. I had some family stuff going on, but even if I didn't have that family stuff going on, I mean, the rates I was seeing, you know, it's like, I asked the question about a year ago, is early access still worth having? And it was kind of a question I was debating, you know, like a year ago. And it's like now, you know, a year later, you see loads on there. It's like they're, you know, they'll show you an early access load that's paying like $1.25 a mile. It's like, that's my reward for having this high grade is $1.25 a mile. I mean, again, the first year and a half, every load I saw that was early access was $4 a mile plus. The fact that now, you know, early access loads are sub $1.50 a mile, it's like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. So, you know, I have my own trailer. I do work for other people. I'll work for Amazon if the money's right, but you know, it's hard for me to make sense in my mind as far as, you know, meeting their obligations, because like they do expect a lot. You know, when you look at other brokers, you know, they'll say like, hey, show up between 8 and noon. And then once you pick the load off, you're drop it off between 4 and 8 tonight, and it's first come, first serve, or maybe you have an appointment. It's really low key, relaxed kind of trucking. Amazon's not like that. Amazon's like, be here at 10:14, and if you're here at 10:15, you're late. And so it's hard for me. I'm not opposed to work. I'm not opposed to doing hard work, but it's just like, if I'm gonna do the hard work, I want the compensation to match. So anyway, I don't mean to keep rambling here. I think that Amazon still is a viable option. It's just kind of changed in my book from being like the main kind of source of something to where like, hey, it's a good option. And you know, but if there's something, you know, if you give me the choice of doing regular trucking for the same pay as Amazon and meeting all their expectations, I'm gonna pick regular trucking 100% of the time. So anyway, those are the changes that I've seen. Those are the 5 things. Be sure and check out that video I mentioned as far as is the easy money over. Those guys, real well put together. I really did enjoy it, and I'd highly encourage checking that out. I hope this video serves you well. Appreciate you for watching. Take care.